Let me just put, just see here, please stand by. Hello, everybody out there in Twitch TV land, Facebook land, YouTube land, and every other land that there is. I'm going to be trying to do this every week. Of course, as you can see, I was about 10 minutes late because I was such in the coding zone, I didn't even look at the clock. I'm an idiot, but you already knew that. So here we go. Today's Burger Time is going to be about a topic that I kind of got dragged into without even knowing it. And that is predatory business lending. Those of you, many of you may think this is not a tech issue, but it is something that's worthy of a John Oliver-ish show of last week tonight. What hath happened was that a few months, about like a little month and a half ago, I started getting inundated with ads, emails, text messages, so forth, saying, does your business need $250,000? Does your business need $100,000? Do you need, and of course, they're always this, we're willing to lend you with this money really, really quick. And as you can imagine, there's a catch. There's a catch because nobody goes around trying to lend you money without saying, well, do you own a house? Do you own a mountain of gold? Do you own something? It's like, hey, we're going to give you with minimal collateral, no interest in your business. We're just going to give you $100,000. Now, of course, for a small business, especially ones that are on the ropes, especially due to the fact that we've had the coronavirus and the war going on in Ukraine, things are kind of scary. So, of course, you'd think it's a lifeline. Now, thankfully for me, I'm kind of running my stuff on a real tight budget, and I'm not doing anything that would require me to spend money. So as a result, I don't really need a loan of any kind. But they just kept calling me, and it got to the point where my phone would be calling up like every hour. I would get a call, and of course, sometimes just a phone number I don't recognize. Other times it actually says possible spam or something like that. So I said, you know what? Let's answer one of these and find out what the hell is their catch. Because I knew that I was never going to execute this loan because there had to be a catch somewhere. So I went ahead and pick up the phone, and sure enough, there was a really pushy salesman who was just insisting that they've got a very large check waiting for me. All I have to do is just give him my social security number, the income, the business history, and so forth. And I said, look, Old School's been around since 2012. I've been doing this kind of business, etc. But then they started asking a very specific question, which was kind of a tip-off. And that was, how much money is the company bringing in revenue every week? And I'm like, you don't know the video game industry, do you? Because if you did, you'd know that if I had an account with, let's say, Google or with Steam or Nintendo, they pay either monthly or quarterly. I do not get a weekly statement and so forth. I mean, I'm not a restaurant. I'm not any sort of a business in which I would actually have money coming in every week. So that's the first red flag. Somebody calling you to lending you money for your business without actually having any clue of what your business does. Japani says, hi, Becky. Pinkamia writes, unsolicited phone calls should be illegal. I'm with you. Well, now that I got this first question, which is starting to tip their hand, I said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. I said, look, I've got income. But the company itself, I've been investing money into it, so it hasn't made any money in all of 2021. In fact, I have lost a ton of money because I've been spending that money on art, on people, and so forth to create products that I'm planning on releasing in the next couple of weeks. Because it takes time to write a game, and as you know, when you make the game, only when the game ships do you start getting money, but you only get money for like about 3 months, and then the money goes, and then at that point you make enough money every week to, or essentially every month to buy a nice dinner somewhere, but that's pretty much it, unless of course you luck out and you make a game that's so good that people buy 3 million copies, then in that case I pay off my house and then I can, pseudo-retire and stuff like that. Well, you don't plan your business model on that, hey, I'm going to release a game and sell 3 million copies. That's the outlier, not the norm. You just basically assume you're going to sell 5,000 copies. Well, so I then told them, I have not made any money in the last year. 12 months of bank statements. Money out, 0 in. 0. And they said, but how's your business staying alive? So it's like, well, then I'm investing money to create products, which takes a year, kind of like, a vineyard. You don't just plant grapes and expect to sell wine next week. It takes time. Well, then at that point it says, well, you own a house, you own property and so forth. Well, maybe you can use that as for collateral and so forth. Okay, now we've actually gotten to a point where they may be legit. They may actually be able to have a loan because they're asking the right questions. But still, there's got to be a catch. There has got to be a catch. So I then said, okay, I'm game. And when I was talking to the salesman, I was kind of like blowing him off. When he would call me up and say, hey, I'll call you back tomorrow. I says, sure. And then he would call me and I'm just ignoring it because I got things to do. And this isn't really what I care about. But then finally I got it. But he was so insistent. So finally I got it. He got me. I went ahead and said, okay, here's my information. Blah, blah, blah. I researched the company. And yes, there is indeed a company. But when I did the research, I found out that they are a loan broker. Not a loan originator, a loan broker. Now, this is the thing you have to understand with loans. If you want to borrow money, you need to go to a loan originator. That is your bank, your credit union, Uncle Tom, Aunt Becky. They are the loan originators because when you make the deal, they're the ones who are going to write a check, give it to you, after you sign a contract in blood that will then say you are obligated to pay back all this money. And if you don't, I'm going to take your car, your house, your soul. But a broker, on the other hand, their job is to find a whole bunch of lenders that they know of, prepare a package saying, hey, I got somebody who wants to borrow X amount of dollars. Any of you guys here want to lend the money? But of course, how do they make money? So, once I found out the company was a loan broker, I already had a feeling where this was going. So, I go ahead and let them throw the line in the water. I grab the hook and let me reel in, all the while I'm holding a knife ready to cut that line. So then they said, all right, we can lend you $100,000. And it'll be a term loan, 1 year or 5 years. We'll do it for 9 years. 9 years at a decent interest rate. And I go like, yeah, that's a really low interest rate. They're saying the right numbers, they're saying the right things. Sounds good. Maybe I underestimated these guys. Maybe they might actually have something. Because if I was to borrow that kind of money really low, I could use it to pay some credit cards off. And then I can go ahead and, do some stuff with the Switch and things like that because, I have the capital. So I'm thinking, okay. So then they're about ready to say, okay, great. Now what we're going to do is that you're going to go get the $85,000 in proceeds and we'll go ahead and sign you up for a $100,000 loan. And that's what the whoa, time out. $85,000 in proceeds on a $100,000 loan? Where did the $15,000 go? So, that's your brokerage fee. Ding, 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 ding. There you go. That was the catch. The catch was, for them to initiate a loan, they were going to take 15% of whatever the loan proceeds were right off the top. Give you the rest of the money. So effectively, I've just borrowed $85,000, but I already owe $15,000 without getting any benefit from the money whatsoever. None. Because I was even saying, look, even my company, I don't need that kind of money right now. I need more like a line of credit, which is, you open up a $100,000 line of credit and kind of like a credit card. I only use what I need. So even though I have $100,000 available in loan money, as long as I don't actually use it, like a credit card, I don't pay anything. But if let's say I'm short on payroll by a couple of $1,000s, then I'll go ahead and just borrow $1,000, put it into the payroll, and then if I can't pay it back, well, I'll let it ride and so forth and let the interest until eventually I get some money in, then I pay it down, and I'm good. Which, of course, over the course of maybe a year or two, I might have pulled out about $100,000, but I put it all back. But each one is like in small increments and so forth, so I never have to have $100,000 in debt pulling in, let's say, 9% interest, which, of course, when you do math, that's $9,000 a year in interest if it's just 9%. If it's more even predatory, like 30%, that's $30,000. I mean, math. So when they told me that they wanted to pull $15,000, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be getting a line of credit that's worth $100,000. But the day I get this line of credit and I have not pulled one penny out of it, I owe $15,000, which at 9% represents about $1,500 in interest alone if I don't pay that amount in the next year. And of course, 15%, is a 15% interest, and let's say I close this thing in 6 months. Well, then technically I had to pay $15,000 for 6 months, which comes out to 30% interest. I mean, there's numbers here, but they're all magically trying to make it sound like it's a fee, therefore it's not an interest rate. And of course, after I started explaining to him math, he says, well, you qualify for the best rate because you have to have such a high credit score. Most companies have to do like a 35% fee. And I'm like, 35% fee? I pity anybody who is so desperate for money that they would sign any sort of a loan in which a 35% fee is put on top of the loan that would then, how the hell are you going to make money if you're paying 30% on the money you borrowed? I mean, whatever your business is, it better have one heck of a markup or profit margin on your products. Because if it's like games, which the profit margins are not very good. I mean, you usually make 10 to 15% profit on, if I take $30,000 to invest into a game, put it out for sale, and I only sell a couple of thousand copies, then, because unfortunately, unless I'm really well known or something like that, that's really all I'm going to sell is 3,000 to 10,000 copies. Anything more than that, it's like, cool. But if it's, 3,000 copies, which is what I expect to sell, then I bring, my $30,000 investment turns into, let's say, $35,000 in sales, or, but after taxes, $50,000 in sales, and the tax person comes in, takes their cuts and all the percentages, and everybody else makes their money. So by the time I'm done, I get all my money back, but I get a little bit more, but it's not that much. If you then tie onto that a 30%, or in this case, 15% plus 9% interest onto a loan, then there goes all my profit. And in fact, I'm losing money. And I was that's one reason why I just wanted to bring this up, because I was, after he told me the numbers, I read him the riot act. And I said, these are the way the numbers work. This is not what you promised me. You said it was going to be a loan. It's only going to be 9% and so forth. And it wasn't until you were about ready to have me sign a contract that you dropped the bomb on me, because I guess he wanted me to be told it before I actually saw the paperwork, because if I actually had the paperwork, I would be posting it right here to show this is what you should avoid. So I've never actually got a contract or anything like that, so I didn't even have anything to sign. But the very fact that the guy, had to do disclosure, and of course, there's an addendum to this. It doesn't end there. And that's the thing that's just amazing. After I told him, I'm sorry, not interested, I'm done, I then hung up the phone. Then he calls me back. Calls me back again. He calls me like 3 or 4 times in succession until finally I said, okay, finally, maybe if it'll get him to go away. I answer the phone and go, yes. And he goes like, and then he goes on to a big sob story about this is how their company makes money, and that if I wanted to get a loan, I'd have to go to the bank, and then I have to file all this paperwork and so on. And that's what they do for me. They save me all this time by filling out the paperwork, by doing all the due diligence, by getting all the contracts, and then that is why they're worth $15,000. And I kid you not, this gentleman spent 15 minutes on the phone trying to explain why he was justified, or his business was justified, in asking for 15% of my loan proceeds because I was using their services to go ahead and shop this loan around to find the appropriate lender, and then they would do all the busy work and stuff, where I then said, look, I have a lender at Wells Fargo. I made friends with the bank, and that I could walk into the bank and that they would then tell me all my different options, and they could give me a loan if I needed one. It's more like if I want one, it's more like the case may be. But if I wanted to have a loan, I would go in there, do it, and of course, there would be no fees, no nothing like that. They would just simply say, here's your contract with a pen on fire from the fiery furnaces of hell, and then I'd go ahead and sign it, and of course, it would disappear in a puff of smoke as some guy in horns would run out the door. But then, the money would be magically appearing in my bank account, and then if for some reason in a month I happen to have the money to put it back, I'll just put all the money right back, and I don't owe anything. And if it's a line of credit, which is what I'd probably get, I would get it, sign it, and it would say, okay, you've got a line of credit. And I would go, that's nice. Maybe if somebody came by and with an opportunity, I would then say, okay, that sounds cool. I will give you X number of dollars so we can work together and get this thing done. And then I'll pull money out of the line of credit because let's just say it's a lot more money I usually keep in my purse. And then use that money, give it to them. We get to work on it, and I would just carry the interest, and I would work the interest into the budget. And then when the project's all done, and hopefully the game actually makes money, I would then put all the money back in the bank, and we'd be all done. And then the devil would go around saying, darn, couldn't get Becky's soul this time. Working on it. So therein is my sob story about this predatory business lender who either their number... Oh, yes, and I didn't even get into the other part, the part that was their first question. Because when he was doing his sob story, telling me about how his business should exist and so forth, I then asked him point blank, why was it when you first contacted me that you were so insistent on knowing what is the weekly revenue of Old School? And then he confessed, and that was their main sort of business is that they would lend money to stores, restaurants, salons, and stuff like that. And once they give them the money, they then tie into the company's bank account. And as they see money going in through the credit card machines and stuff like that, they just take 30%. And that's their payments. So therefore, your business, whatever it may be, while you have this big wad of cash that you just got in, you will now notice that all of your revenues, all across the board, drops 30%. That even includes tips. So like if you go to a restaurant that sign up with one of these sharks, you would give them, some money, you give them a $10 tip, and that's generous, of course, if you go to a really nice place, but let's just say $10 because it makes the math easy. So I give them a $10 tip, that tip, $3 of it goes straight to the lender, so the tip actually turns into $7, so that the worker, when they get the tip, they go like, I thought you'd got tipped $10. No, you only got tipped $7, because it's even screwing over the employees if it's a tipped restaurant, because it's taking all the money off the top. And of course, this is their way kind of like a payday loan where they keep getting the loans renewed every week or something like that, because they say, oh, as you're paying it down, they say, well, do you want us to lend you some more money, or whatever their interest rate is? Because I can assure you that most restaurants and stores are not going to get that 9% that they promised. It'd be more like 15 to 30%, more likely 30%. So 30% interest on all the money that's going out, 30% of your income is going into their coffers. You are being squeezed dry. And that is like, ugh. So it's always back to lesson to be learned. If people are soliciting you over the phone with cold calls, just assume it's a scam, no matter how good they make it sound. I mean, this guy had me for a little bit going like, the numbers sound right. He's saying the right things. He might actually have... Oh, no, $15,000. There we go. I knew there had to be a catch somewhere. And there we go. Anyways, so it's time for me to go ahead and ask questions from the Peanut Gallery, or ask if there's another topic, considering that I've only been ranting for about 20 minutes instead of my usual half hour to a full hour. But in the meantime, I do have an announcement I want to make, and that is Patreon. Those of you who follow me know that, and I'm on Burger Becky on Twitter and stuff like that, I make a comic book called Sailor Ronco. It is a fan comic based on Sailor Moon and Ranma 1/2. Because it is a fan comic, I cannot make any money off of it. None. Just absolutely forbidden, because copyrights. Like, I can't make merch, I can't make t-shirts, I can't do any of that stuff, because I don't want the copyright gods come knocking on my door with a subpoena. But what I can do is I can go ahead and ask for a Patreon, asking for people to help me defer my costs to keep the comic going, because the storyline that's currently going right now, I expect it's going to wrap up around June. And once that happens, we're going to have a panel, a page that I have planned that'll be kind of like the end, and they live happily ever after, or until their next adventure, blah, blah, blah. If any of you have been following the Sailor Ronco fan fiction, the actual novels, you know that I've written at least 6 novels that follow after this storyline. And I would very much like to turn those books into comic book form. But making a comic book is not cheap, and Irwin, the artist, he does not do work for exposure. He does work for rent, and he works for food, and he has a family to raise. So I've been, reaching in my purse, giving him money, thanks to a generous contribution I had about 6 months ago. A gentleman gave me a gift, and I was using the proceeds of that gift to start up the comic and keep it going. So thank you, anonymous donor. But, however, that money's going to run out really soon. And once that's done, then the comic book will conclude, because I really can't afford to do it. Now, I am planning on working with Irwin on a new comic book that's all original IP. And that one I'm not going to do a Patreon, because I'm planning on actually pushing, showing it to comic book companies, etc., and maybe get published. The name of the comic book is called Cynthia 1. About a young girl who has a dark secret, and while she's in high school, and she meets up with a bunch of friends, and they make a little superhero team, if you can call it that, considering that Cynthia has abilities, not necessarily powers. She has abilities, but while the other kids are just regular kids, until they eventually figure out Cynthia's actual who and what she actually is. Which, of course, is in the climax and ending of the comic book, because, whenever I create an IP, I always do figure out how is it going to end. I'm not going to just create a bunch of characters and just say, let's have adventures until forever. I actually have, this is how, if I ever get bored or tired or whatever it is just isn't working anymore, I'm just going to say, okay, here's the final chapter, do the season finale, we're done, move on. So, go to patreon.com/SailorRonco, SailorRanko. I'm going to put the link down in the description here in with both Twitch and YouTube and stuff. But I would very much like it if people who appreciate my comics become patrons, and I actually have different levels and stuff like that for perks now going on. And there's a Discord channel. So if you go to the new Sailor Ronco website, because I actually updated it just recently, there's actually a link in there, so you click on it and it will take you to the Discord channel, so you can actually chat with me occasionally when I'm occasionally there. So anybody else have any questions or stuff like that before I go wander back out under the dark plans of Twitch and let's see, multi-streams? Anybody here? Anybody wrote any comments and stuff like that? Yeah, unfortunately, this system works only with Twitch TV for the interactivity. I know I'm broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube, but I don't really get to see their comments. At least I don't see them right now. I don't see anything there. It's a stream chat read only with the software I'm using. But anyways, just wanted to say hello everybody out there in Twitch TV land and Facebook land and YouTube land. And hope you enjoyed my little rant about predatory lending. Next week, I will go ahead and do a more technical game-related topic on